Welcome back to the Cricket Matters podcast. I'm your host, Josh Kennedy, ably supported, as always, by my co-host, James Breese. Today's guest is a former South African cricketer, a right-arm fast bowler known for his aggressive bowling style and fiery on-field persona. He played for South African national team between 2001 and 2008, and he earned a reputation for being an emotional and intense player. He was also known for his alter ego, Gunther, which he humorously claimed was a part of his personality that he unleashed while bowling to maintain his fierce competitive edge. Effective with his pace and bounce, often using his aggression to unsettle batsmen, he played in all formats including Tests, ODIs and T20s, and was a key figure in South Africa's bowling attack for several years. It is an absolute pleasure to welcome Andre Nel. Andre, welcome to the Cricket Matters podcast, mate.
Hello, Josh and James. Thanks for having me. Hopefully it will be a nice little catch-up.
It will be good. James, should we just dive straight in and go... Tell us more about Gunther.
I think it's actually it's a really funny joke. So when I stepped over the white line, I sort of got quite fired up. And my job for South Africa at that stage was to intimidate the other team. And then when I stepped over the ropes, and this happened naturally. And the one day at Nets, technical guy, video analysis guy, so listen, sometimes when you're on the field, you look like you have a lack of oxygen to the brain when you go into the mountains in Germany. And you go up into the mountains, and you lack of oxygen to the brain, you go a bit loopy. We're just going to start calling you Gunther. And I thought, like, that's quite a funny little name. I thought, I'll go with it. You can call me Gunther, you can call me whatever you want to. So every time, like, I went a bit mad on the field, everyone started calling me Gunther. So it sort of stuck. And in one way, the press got word of this, and they sort of wrote a lot about little Gunther, my alter ego. And that actually helped me because now the press have done all my work for me. They spoke about the alter ego as going to be aggressive and in people's faces. In the meantime, I tried to not be as aggressive, and I could just focus on my job as being a fast bowler. So the work was done for me off the field by this little simple joke by a video analysis. It worked in my favor. It's a nice little story. It's a nice little joke with all my mates and everybody I play with. But he really comes out and he's put away. Just happens when I go to the cricket field.
I love it. He's just put away somewhere in the cupboard for the moment.
Yeah, he's in the cupboard. When I go out for the mighty Chelmsford over the weekend, sometimes and I ask me to bowl, and someone needs me for 4, I want to bring him up, and my body's too sore and too old to get good to us. So I said, don't worry, I'll hit you for 6 rather now instead of bowling quicker.
I love it because it's honestly so funny. Having got to know you through the over 40 stuff, Andre, right? Like, you know, we have such a laugh, such a joke. But I literally remember watching. I used to love watching the South African games, particularly with you guys. Not less so against England, but more so against the Aussies. Because I remember watching live you with Brett Lee. I remember watching that whole game pan out when I was out there and stuff like that. And I loved it. It was so brilliant. So when I first met you, I was like, oh my god, it's Andre Nel. Like, he's the scariest, angriest man in cricket. And then I remember, oh, it's Gunther. It's like, hey James, how you doing? And it's like the most friendly, nicest guy ever. So I love it. I think the Gunther story is absolutely superb. And it ties in with how you played the game, and it was aggressive, but it was like that was how, you know, whether it's rugby or cricket, South Africans always play the game hard. They play it fair, but they play it hard. And you cross that white line, it's a hard competitive game off the field. Great guys. It's just that style of doing things, and that's what I love about South Africans so much.
I think one thing that you must remember, that's your job, and you do it for your country. So for me, I never had the best technical ability as a bowler, but what else could I bring to make myself effective? And at one stage, I realized, okay, let's see, I might not be technically as equipped as some bowlers, but my aggression with my limited or some of my technical abilities made me pretty effective. And I made that work for me because that's my best part of me. Those two have to be together. And I think my teammates want to be aggressive. I play it hard. The better the competition, like if I play against Brian Lara or Ricky Ponting, or the better the competition, the more I want to bowl, because I want to see with my limited capabilities if I can compete against them. I think that's just a South African mentality in general, and no disrespect to the Northern Hemisphere people in general. I think that's a Southern Hemisphere sort of mentality. The harder the battle, the more we want to be stood up and challenged to see if you can compete. And if you can't compete, it's fine. You'll go back and work and get better and compete again. I mean, sometimes I felt, and I'm only talking about my limited experience as coaching here, sometimes when they're going to get touched in the Northern Hemisphere, the guys sometimes seem to back off and look for easier option, where the South Africans, I think the Southern Hemisphere sometimes is just, they want that extra challenge and battle. So that's the way I was going to play. I was always going to be hard and fair. That's just my nature. But I would never be able to hurt the fly. As you know, James, I'm probably the softest, and I don't take a lot of things seriously off the field, to be fair. So, yeah, I'm completely different to when I'm playing on the cricket field.
Brilliant. I love it. Starting with Gunther is probably the best idea we had, Josh. Well done, mate.
Definitely. I was just going to say that when you're talking about that sort of South African aggression, like I said, we all know on this podcast that I don't watch a lot of cricket, etc. I've watched some, and I've watched some clips of you, actually, Andre, which I very much enjoyed. But definitely,
there was a lot of smiling.
Yeah, you were shouting.
No surprise.
It just makes me think of like the South African rugby team, because they are so aggressive. And obviously, being English, we've been on the receiving end of you boys recently. We obviously lost in the World Cup not too long ago. So there's definitely is that within South African sportsmen in general, that aggression? Do you think?
I think it's just nurtured in us from a young age. So when we at school, we start school, we play sport as compulsion at every school. So you'll have to, after the school starts at 7 o'clock or 7:30, school finishes at 1:30, 2 o'clock, and then everybody has to play a sport. Is it rugby, cricket, whatever you want to play, you play that specific sport for that certain period of the year and of the weather. So I think it's just the nature. We're competitive. We want to do well. We are winners, and I think everybody want to win. And I think if you're a professional sportsman in general, you have to have a bit of hardness, a bit of fight inside you to be really successful. And I think that just comes out maybe more in some people. People can see what you're feeling, where other people sometimes just hide it a lot better than what I did.
It's interesting you say about like in schools, because that's two things I saw when I was out there. So we in the World Cup in Cape Town, back in February this year. So we played at the Wynberg Schoolboys, the Jack Ellis Oval, I think. We played there against New Zealand. And then we were at the Paul Roos, I think that's how you pronounce it, in Rondebosch. And both times we were there, we saw the kids playing and like training. And the one thing I couldn't get over, particularly at the Jack Ellis Oval, was the fact that the kids there between the ages of 13 and 15 were stacked. They were cricketers who were athletic, fit and strong. And when they were in the nets, they were going hard at each other. They're having a laugh as well, the joke. But I couldn't get over the athleticism with these guys. When you compare them to, I'll be honest, like what are the kids I've seen in the UK and how athletic they are, it was like day and night. They were like completely different. And that was, I think, I was talking to one of the coaches there too. And he said, yeah, well, these guys, this is cricket season now, but you wait till they're playing rugby as well. So is that meant all year round mentality of playing multiple sports, playing it well? Obviously, I think the weather helps, and having good quality weather there too, to get outside and be more active. But when you see on TV, there's sport channels everywhere. You can watch sport every day of the week. You see the kids training, getting outside. It was a different mindset and different mentality, which I really enjoyed. And I wish that would be more part of a British culture, I think, in saying you do it. So there's a big difference.
I think that's a big thing. I think all the guys from a young age start playing sport and multiple sports. And I think it's almost the good rugby players will always be decent cricket players, and vice versa. The good cricket players will be rugby players, or maybe football players or whatever, like Herschel Gibbs. He played rugby well, he played cricket well, he played football well. Abraham Williams played tennis, rugby. All these superstars are really good cricketers and good sportsmen in general. And I think that helps with us being quite athletic, because the sport is compulsory, like I said, compulsory at school, and everybody wants to do it. It's not like you have to be forced or please can you join a club. It's at school, you have to do it. It's almost shut up and get on with it. And that's almost the mentality they teach you. So let's say, okay, you are going to be at school, you are going to do sport, you might as well enjoy it and get into it and do as best you can, because otherwise you're just going to waste your time. And I think that helps us a lot. And I think in South Africa it helps, especially our rugby players, being so stacked and big, because from a young age they'll be taught the right ways to train, probably a bit stronger than most people, and the more meat they eat and all those nice, the weather helps. But I think it's just from a young age we get culture of train hard, play hard, and then be best sportsmen in general.
Eat steak. Eat steak. That's what I know. A lot of biltong and steak. That's what I saw.
Eat red meat. unless you're biltong, it's the best natural form of creatine you can get. So that's why everybody eats it.
I love biltong. I love biltong. It's so good, so good. We're gonna start going down the food route now because I'm a massive foodie. I'm gonna start. So let's try and stay on the cricket side of things. I don't know how much James has told you about the way we do things at Cricket Matters, but we try and balance the sort of the physical conditioning side, which is where I come in, with the mental and psychological resilience and the technical and tactical skills of the game as well, and kind of in that order. How do these elements sort of resonate with you in terms of your own career and experiences?
I think technically, like I said before, I was never the best equipped to be technically advanced. My action was really poor. But I think I mentioned my mental state made a massive part, that I have to be in a certain mental space to be really effective. And so the quicker I figured this out, where, yes, my action's okay, but I had to be in a space where I look for battle, look for fight, and sync those two together. And that's why sometimes people don't understand. Sometimes I had a word to look for fight or response to get myself in the right mental space to be effective as a cricketer with my capabilities. And I think that's really important and people can understand that. Yes, technical part is important, but you need to know where you have to be in your mental space to also be effective. I think is really important. Physically has always been a part. Unfortunately, I've always been quite big and strong and quite bullish, but that doesn't mean you're going to be really effective. So for me, the mental part plays a massive part, and especially now with I just finished my level 4 course, and the ways that kids and people get coached now is completely different to the way I've been brought up. It's where you push and push. I'll growing up here, push you to do the right thing and then get on with it. Now you have to, or they help you to get to the right place. Now you have to allow the kids to find their own way first, see where they bump their heads, and then you intervene at the right stage to maybe get their mental part right, their physical part right, or their technical part right. But they have to explore themselves first before intervening, where I was almost just directed in the right way. Do it, this is the way it works. Yes, it's maybe narrow-minded at that stage, but for me and my character, that worked. And you have that understanding of who you're coaching, who you work with, what works for them. So I think all three of those things play a massive part in my career. And the way I coach, I try and sync them as best together as possible. So in general, that's really important, I think, Tom.
So let's start with the physical first. I want to go back into the mental side. You talk about the importance of mental, and that's one of the things I'm seeing on all levels of cricketers. You know, even some of the pros we've spoken to, but also a lot of the club players and the amateurs, right? So we'll dive into that a bit more later on. But let's start with the physical conditioning. Away from actual playing on the field, you know, what role did physical conditioning play in helping you become a fast bowler? What physical conditioning did you do? Was it gym based? Was it running based? Talk us through back in the day, and you're leading up to getting into the the South African team. You know, what was your training outside of cricket? Talk to us about that.
I think the big thing for me is I was a better rugby player than a cricket player, so I was always physically quite strong and did a lot of gym work initially. But I disliked running a lot. For a big guy, I don't like running. But as a fast bowler, you need that endurance, and I never had that endurance as much. So luckily, strength-wise, I was always quite strong, and I was quite happy with the strength part. But when I started playing cricket, they said to me, I need to work on my endurance. So I started doing a lot more cycling, a lot more running, so I can get that endurance in my legs with the power. And especially with me having quite a strange and different action, I knew my bottom half of my body had to be a lot stronger than my top half, because my power and my pace came from my hips and my legs. So I knew that. So I had to make sure that I was strong in those departments. Yes, the top half was important for me, but for me, that wasn't the crux of my power and pace. It was my legs. And I just had to make sure that I get those spots quite strong and get the understanding of how they work together. So luckily for me, I was always quite strong. So the physical part was the enjoyable part. The running part I didn't enjoy, and I'll never forget in 2007, I was on the fringe of going to the World Cup. I wasn't sort of guaranteed to going. And I don't know if you can remember the bleep test or the yo-yo test. I think we were doing the bleep test. That's quite a long time ago. We're doing the bleep test, and we had to get to 14.5 or 15 on the bleep test. And my best ever was 12.5. So I wasn't the best runner. So they said to me, if you want to go to the World Cup, you need to make sure that you get to that level. Otherwise, you're not going to consider you for selection. So for that year, I just ran everywhere and did everything I could to make sure I put as much endurance and sprint sessions in as I could. Got to the testing for the final assessment to be selected to the World Cup. I ran to 16.4. So the motivation for me to go to World Cup is brilliant. But also, I think that also indicates me if I have like it's almost like a horse. If there's a carrot dangling in front of me and there's a purpose and a goal, I would always reach a goal. And that sort of then helped me with everything I did after that. Is when I play against someone, what is this, the sacrifice or the gain I'm getting by getting him out? It was almost the second part to my mentality to being more successful. So at least I got to go. I got picked to go to the World Cup, and we got to the semi-final where I scored the second most runs in that semi-final because he got bowled out quite cheaply. So I got the second highest score. So I see myself as more of a bowling all-rounder than just a bowler.
Love it. Every bowler is a batsman, right? Every bowler is a batsman. It's a batsman in hiding, as I always like to say. That's how it is. But let's start. There's a couple of things I've made notes on here now, and I'm going to go more into the specifics of knowing what you did. So let's start with cycling. Now, I've become, over the summer, a massive fan of cycling for cricketers in the in-season. And the reason is it's a great... Because obviously the strain you put through your body playing is huge, no matter what level. But cycling, I find, is a really good recovery to help people do a zone 2, nice, easy condition to keep their baseline cardio fitness. Because guess what? Whether they play it's T20, one day, test match, you've got to have your endurance to play over that period of time. And you've got to maintain it. Because a lot of cricketers lose fitness sometimes during the season. They put a bit of weight on, we know, as well, because season is hard. It's recovery. You don't want to train. You can't do as much as maybe off-season, for example. But cycling, I think, is a great way to recover whilst maintaining your endurance to keep playing without putting too much strain on the body. Talk to me about the cycling. What type of cycling were you doing? Long distance, short distance? Tell me a little bit more about that.
So the big thing is what bikes weren't there yet. But because I was a big guy, I didn't like the running as much because a lot of impact on my body. I didn't want to do as much of that. So I cycled quite a lot just on normal in the gym. Did like hour cycles, almost called like little fat burners. And then eventually I got to a stage where I call it brick sets. So where I would cycle for almost an hour and 15, or sometimes an hour and a half at a certain, try and keep your speed above 30 kilometers an hour. So it's a hard cycle, but a ridiculous cycle. And then straight away get off and go around for 15 minutes on the treadmill or outdoors. So that makes your legs a lot stronger. And fine enough, I did that when I was playing a little bit. And then that helped me quite a lot. But then when I retired, I did a few Ironmen, and I did a lot of these sets.
I was going to say that's triathlon training, that isn't it? Bike into running, yeah. I
did that a lot, and I didn't realize it. I thought like bike run, and then eventually I retired, and someone dared me to do an Ironman. I did one Ironman, I did 5 full ones and 10 half ones now. So, and that process, I still did a lot of cycling and running afterwards, and that helped me a lot with my bowling and running. But I think that makes you stronger than what you think. And the endurance of your legs by doing that helps a lot for bowling. And that's where you need your power. And especially for me, that's where I need my power for bowling. And also, it's less stress in the body, so you can recover. So even after a hard day's work and bowling a lot, you're tired. Yes, you can do the ice bath, but then go for like a 20, 30-minute cycle, light, easy, will recover and helps your muscles also to recover. So I think in general, cycling is underrated and not used enough, and people think you're not working as hard, but if you do the right sets and do the right things on the bike, it can be just as valuable as running as much.
I love that. I really like that idea, particularly for bigger guys like yourself. Like I'm 6'7", that's what I am, right? So yeah. I'm just a freak. I can just run, yeah, right. That's how it rolls. Take a foot off, maybe. I think that's more appropriate. But for the bigger guys, it's hard on the body, it's hard on the joints, and if you're bowling fast as well, it's so hard. So the cycling here, but I really like the idea of the cycle for an hour with 15 minutes run, because cricket, you have to run. You can't get away from it, right? It's a part of the game. And doing it with tired legs, a lot of the triathletes we've worked with in the past, when we're doing marathon training or whether it's triathlon as well, is we get them to run day after 3 days in the trot, increase their volume. So on the third day, they're running on tired legs. So it gets them used to running on tired legs like race day without doing too much volume. So I quite like that idea, Josh. We may have to steal that for some of our training. So let's go back to the running then.
For bowler, it's important. If your legs are going to be tired, you're always going to be, and if you find a way to be effective on tired legs and then be consistent with your outcome and perform under those tired fatigue situations, you can replicate in training. You can only be better as a bowler. And for me, that helped me quite a lot.
So exactly. Well, think about how many bowls blow up after 4 overs, right? Think how many, particularly at club and amateur level. I'm not saying at the elite level. I'm saying at club level alone with that. Just having some extra endurance to get them through to the 6th, 7th, and then battle through the last year, if anything. But it's, I think it's a massive takeaway.
I always set myself a challenge, and my mentor, Ray Jennings, he always challenged me, what's going to make me different and unique? And he said, okay, listen, yes, you're big, you bowl aggressively or whatever, but he challenged me always to make sure my last over, my last spell of the day, would be the quickest spell of the day. And I said, yes, my first one, but he challenged me mentally to make sure my last spell is the best and quickest spell of the day. With a new ball, old ball, whatever it might be, that last spell of ball of the day should be the quickest, because no one will ever expect it, and that's going to make me different and stand out in general. And that's what I use also as another motivation, because honestly, and I think Dale Steyn was and did it quite well. You can always see his pace stay continuously the same, but his last spells are always pretty sharp and quick, and I think that's the most important thing, and that's what I try to do. I might not always got right, but I challenge myself to make sure that my last spell of the day should be close to be, or wants to be, my quickest spell of the day.
Love it. I really like that. And just very briefly about the running then. So obviously you took yourself up from 12.5 to 16.4 on the beat test, right? Which is a good score. That's a great score. So talk to us about what running stuff were you doing? Were you doing long distance? Were you doing short distance shuttles? What did you do?
I did a lot more sprinting. So it's like almost like 30, 40 minute sprints. But I will do half an hour, 40 minutes of just running sprints, and then for a little run afterwards. Or I'll do like a long little distance run, and then after that, I'll do more sprints. So I do a lot of sprinting because it's about turning, and I'm a big guy. So the turning was important to me. So I had to make sure that I can get used to when the sprinting gets up, I'm sort of used to it. And then also, I'm not sure if I should tell this. I think Hansi used a system where you never stop and turn. You almost run in S's and you run in 8s. So instead of stop and turn, you run in an 8 like this the whole time. So it's not as heavy on, for especially big guy. Hansi was quite a big guy. He sort of started running in 8s because then you hardly ever stop. And it's more running and turning instead of stopping and turning. That's what, as a big guy, I think kills us, is stopping. So I started running in more 8s like this instead of like stopping and turning, because that tired me out a lot more. So I think it's just, I did a lot more sprints and just maybe find a better technique. And yes, I did some long endurance runs where I went from normally 5Ks and 10Ks. And I think the biggest shift for me was I hated running. Honestly, I hated running. But the more I started doing it, and the more I started seeing, okay, I can do it, I started disliking it. It's a massive mental change from hating to dislike. And I think that also made a massive difference for me to go, okay, let's say I'm running, okay, I dislike it, but I can do it. I don't hate it, because if you hate it, you don't want to do it. So that's also a massive part to possibly helping me with success.
That's one of the things that me and Josh use with a lot of our guys. We love it when we change the mindset towards running as being positive. And what I mean by that is people have this fear of running. They associate running with being miserable, tired, sucking, blowing out their arse, that type of thing. Whereas we reframe it and we go, oh, okay. It is, yeah, well, it is. And that's the thing. We help them reframe it. So sometimes we hold off teaching them to run and get them fitter on the bike, fitter on the rower, the assault bike, all these types of things first. So when they go to run, we introduce this idea of walk running. So maybe they jog for a minute, walk for 4 minutes, and we build them up slowly. So when it comes to this, he goes from hating it to disliking it, right? But it ties into it, changes your mind. So I love what you just said about that, from hating to disliking it. Because if I'm assuming as well, the fitter you got, the better it is, easier on the body as well, potentially.
And the thing is, again, by you getting guys fit off the bike before I start running, they believe and the confidence are there to know that you'll be able to do it. And the same thing, when I was doing those things, I started disliking or like not hating it, disliking it. And I can say, okay, let's see, I can do 10Ks. I'm feeling okay. Okay, I can keep pushing myself. So it's a confidence and belief that you can do it because you get fitter by doing it. So I think it's the way you almost said, get them fit before running. It's a confidence you build in them that they'll be able to do it then. And then when they start doing it, because the base is there, it's a lot easier. It's so funny. You said now the minute walking and 4 minutes running, or vice versa. That's the way I broke up all my Ironmen. I've done almost 17 Ironmen. I'll go, okay, I'll run 4 minutes. On a full Ironman, I'll run 3 minutes, walk 3 minutes. And a half Ironman, I'll go run 4 minutes, walk a minute. Because I knew I would never be able to run it. So like I made peace with walking. I wasn't upset when I was walking. I enjoyed walking. So I was happy with it. But that's how you almost mentally break things down for you to be positive and more confident and be able to finish it. And again, by doing this, you're all talking mentally. And now you can actually realize how bigger part the mental aspect plays to anything you're doing in life.
That's a perfect segue then, because we've talked a lot about the physical conditioning and some of the stuff here now in terms of, I love how we're talking about endurance and stuff as opposed to strength training, lifting weights. It sounds ridiculous, but everyone focuses on the lifting weights. Well, I see sometimes a lot of lifting weights has a detrimental effect on fast bowling. It makes bowlers slower sometimes because they train various different ways. So, but the endurance is good. But transitioning into the mental side of things. So obviously, like, how did you mentally prepare for a game? What was your routine pre-match? Like going into the morning of the game, what was your mental strategies around that side of things?
I'm not sure if I'll be able to tell you this because I was quite unique in my ways of doing things sometimes. So I think the biggest thing for me is like in the morning of the day or day before, I will go probably bowl 3-4 overs at nets. Just check like normally I have little checkpoints in what I was doing as a bowler. Make sure I check those little 4 or 5 checkpoints. And then that's about it. Go for a nice little ice bath, and then go to the hotel and just chill and eat as much as whatever I wanted to, really. I wasn't massive on what I have to eat is important. I just eat whatever because I was going to burn off the next day anyway. In the morning, I normally, to make sure I have a decent breakfast, I think jungle oats, or I don't know if you know what jungle oats is, like just normal oats. It was one of my biggest things I have to eat before I go. Then I will take 2 bananas on the bus, and then I had to listen to Linkin Park.
I love it.
I was a massive fan of Linkin Park, but there's some of their songs are quite brutal and get you quite wound up. So by the time I get to the ground, I was pretty wound up already. And then getting to the change room, I was pretty OCD, so my shoes had to be perfectly set up. My area had to be really neat. Got to the change room. Normally I have to go for a shower in the change room. I don't know why. I was a massive fan of having a shower, coming back to the change room, then getting dressed. I use a lot of baby powder. So powder into my because it's important. Your legs and is important. So I always put baby powder down my strides, I think it's called in England, or my leggings.
I love it.
And then on my feet. Then on my feet, I put powder. I think that's my weapons and powder. And then I put my socks on. My left foot my left shoe sock will always have gone first, and then my right shoe or socks. And then sort of I go into the field, do warm ups. I wasn't a big fan of taking part in football or games. I just felt like yes, I'll be a part, but that normally took a lot of energy from what I wanted to do. So I'll play around and mess around and the biggest thing is I did mess around. I didn't take warm-ups and things very seriously. I did joke around because if I was joking around, I knew I was nervous. So I was trying to distract from my nerves almost, joking around and having a lot of jokes. Did my warm-ups, have a few bowls, catch. I probably bowled maybe 4 or 5 balls, didn't bowl too much. Then go into the change room, have my banana I brought with. Then have a nice shower. Same process again. Powder, socks if you're bowling first. If you're batting first, is even bigger bonus, have a longer shower. And then just chill. But if we were bowling, came into the change room, had a shower, put powder on, chat to the captain just to make sure we're on the same plan and what we wanted to do, and where's my head at, where I'll be bowling. I sort of had already idea what I was doing. And then when we were going out after that whole process, getting dressed or whatever, going to the field, sing the anthems. Thank goodness I picked cricket, because if I had to play a contact sport after the anthems, I would probably be sent off quite quickly. So I was pretty cool that I picked cricket so I could calm down a little bit before I bowl normally. And then just going to make sure that I bring as much energy with my car normally onto the field. Yes, I maybe was a big guy in the field, but I always proud myself for making sure I was quite agile and athletic and brought as much energy in the field and stop as many balls as I can. And then with my chance to bowl, sort of had my process of making sure my rubber's marked out and bowl a few balls to Sean Pollock or Gary Kirsten. They were sort of my go-to guys just to get me in a good frame of mind. And then just my biggest thing is when I was running up, I just wanted to try and hit Darkshire as much as possible. Batter was irrelevant. I had my game plan, but the first few balls, I just wanted to try and hit Bouch as much as possible. And then sort of got into my spell, and that's sort of my process. I went into test matches a lot of times.
I love it. And the key thing here now is process and routine. I think if anyone's here listening and they can get out of this here now, is you had, like, everyone's going to be different. Everyone's going to do different. Not everyone's going to like listen to Linkin Park coming in the team
or have
bus,
two
like,
showers pre-game.
Have 2 showers.
But could be 4 showers some days. You never know if it's hot. I have 4 showers.
But this is great, because this becomes helping other people, other cricketers, realizing there's a process. It's the mental start to building up to it, and you're prepped for each game, whether it's club cricket or international test match level, right? You've got your process to get you into the best position to perform at your best, and your best was having this thing, is having oats in the morning, having 2 bananas with you, taking it with you, having the showers. That was your thing. And I think when you speak to so many cricketers, they haven't got a process going into games like that. That is a huge element I'm really learning now, is because how can you perform at your best if you haven't got a consistent process pre-match? And we'll go more into during the match in a second now.
It made me think about, like, you know, a lot of footballers have their superstitions and the way to do things. Like Paul Ince couldn't put his shirt on until he was like walking out of the tunnel and stuff like that, you know, and having to put their left boot on before their right boot, or, you know, whatever it is. A lot of you know, elite sportsmen have those things, don't they?
Different ones. For one-day games, I was more like, when I was in the bus in 2020, I was like listening to dance music. It's weird. And then I'll get to the ground, I'm like hyped up and already going and buzzing already. So I'm like up for it already, because I just felt the intensity is a lot quicker than test cricket. Test cricket, yes, you want to be hyped up, but you don't want to be over hyped up, because then you used your energy at the wrong time. So I thought that Linkin Park, yes, it gets you hyped up, but it's a bit more chill than it, and it's weird. But I think what you were saying, James, the process is so important. And the only way you can know your process, you have to experiment. And people don't sometimes take notice of what they're doing, because they say, oh, I just do this because it happens. No, you have to make sure, as a sportsman, you need to make sure what you do every time, because that little small difference in little details to making you successful, you might miss if you're not aware and consistently making sure you, this is what I'm doing. Okay, cool. This works for me. I'll do it again and see if it makes me feel better and keeps me in my comfort zone. Because if you can keep yourself in your comfort zone the whole time, and that's what a process is there for. Yes, it's there to get you ready for the game, but it keeps you in your comfort zone, so you don't get too nervous or you're just always in your comfort zone. Because if you're in your comfort zone, that's when you know you can be able to perform at your best. If you're out your comfort zone, sometimes you'll be unsuccessful, and then all of a sudden, oh, what am I doing wrong? Because you haven't got a solid process, and you'll be less consistent to perform well if you don't have that solid process, I think. And that's really key for kids to find out. And it's funny enough, I see to guys now, especially fast bowlers, how do you fix yourself? So when you bowl well, guys think, oh no, I bowl well, it's fun, I'll take 5 wickets today. That's the moments when you're bowling well, you have to make sure, okay, take reference points. Where did my front foot land? Where did my momentum go? Where did the ball go? Where did my follow-through go? Because when you're out of form, you have now answers to fix yourself as a bowler instead of depending on a coach. And if you make those reference points when you're bowling well, it's a lot easier to be consistent, because then when you're out of form, it takes you less time to get back into form if you have those answers already. But if you're still searching for those answers the whole time, you don't take the time when you're bowling well to take those answers and get those answers for you to be consistently perform at the highest level, you'll be longer periods out of form, you'll be less successful. That leads to won't be picked. That leads to a lot more other things where you have to make the time and be aware when you're bowling well. That's a moment you have to seize, because it's easy and the answers are there for you to fix yourself when you're out of form. And that means it leads to consistency. And that's why I teach a lot of bowlers now these days, to make sure they seize those moments.
I love it. And we're going to come back onto the technical side of things in a little bit, but I'm going to just go back into the mental process for each ball. So, are we to talk about your process? Let's start with you opening the bowling, okay? What is your process from at the top of the mark to bowling the ball? What goes through your head? What do you say to yourself? And then what's your process coming back to the top of your mark? Talk us in depth in that. What's going through your mind? What do you say to yourself? What are you thinking? Is it technical? Is it mental? Do you have a keyword? Do you have a buzzword? Talk us about that.
I think the biggest thing for me is when I'm at the back of my run-up, the work had to be done already. And that's the biggest thing. I don't want to be at the back of my run-up and I haven't done enough work. So I'll know I've bowled enough. I know my best ball. I can bowl with my eyes closed. Technically wise, I'm in a good position. So all those checkpoints that I set for myself, I know I've done at practice, and practice as hard as I can to be ready for those situations. At the back of my run-up, I normally say, don't try and think of anything else, and just try and bowl the ball as quick as you can to bat. So that was my process. My first few balls is making sure that I bowl the ball as quick as possible to the keeper. Wasn't thinking of anything else, not the bat or whatever, just to make sure Mark Boucher catches the ball as many times as he can my first few overs or first few balls. If I get that right and my momentum is good, on the way back, if I didn't get that right, I may bowl down leg side. I will check where my checkpoints are, maybe see my front foot maybe didn't land correctly. Okay, let's be aware of where my front foot landed, where my follow through went. There's little small checkpoints I check on the way back. What happened with those balls to make sure, I'm slightly off in this space, refocus on those. And then by the time I get back to my run-up again, back to my mark, my run-up, those checkpoints will be cleared, made sure and focused on. And then I just think, okay, but catch the ball, please. So I really try to keep it as simple as possible. But I think the biggest thing for me is the work had to be done before, and then I had to know what my reference and checkpoints were before I did all those things.
I love it. And I'll get to those checkpoints now in a second. So as you were running in, did you ever say to yourself a buzzword? Did you ever say a buzzword as other than like obviously hit the gloves hard with Bouch? Did you ever say to yourself a word as you were running in? Did you sing a song at the point of delivery? Did you ever say anything, or was it just
he sang Linkin Park on
Linkin
his run-up
Park,
every time
yeah.
he was going?
all I was thinking of is just trying to bowl the ball as quick as possible to Mark Boucher. Occasionally, when Gunther came out, there's a few hard words that came into my head when I was running up. But at the moment of delivery and just before I got to the umpire, the only thing I was thinking about is getting the ball to Mark Boucher as best I can.
Love it. And that ties in nicely. I had a question. I had coffee with a mate of mine this morning, and he's a cricketer, amateur cricketer, very high level water polo player, but he's a fast bowler, wannabe fast bowler. And the question he asked me to ask you today was, which you pretty much answered. Is Andre Nell trying to bowl as fast as he can every ball, or does he take 5% off? What do the pros do, and what should amateurs do, like me?
I think, yes. It's intentionally I just want to try and bowl as quick as I can to Mark Boucher, because that was my role, to intimidate, try and bowl as quick as possible and be in people's faces. If I bowl powder puff, how can I be in people's faces if I bowl powder puff? So that was also part of my armory to make sure this year. If I want to intimidate people, I need to bowl and I need to be in people's faces and bowl quick. But I think the longer you play, the better you get the understanding of what the conditions need on the day. Because cricket's conditions are always different and variable. And on some days, if you bowl quick on certain wickets, it might not be as effective. So yes, then you'll bowl slightly slower because the conditions will dictate for you to be more effective. So yes, it's having an understanding of the conditions, understanding what the conditions need, and what will work best in those conditions. When it's a slow, damp wicket, it's pointless bowling quick because you're just going to waste energy. And when you can put your energy into fielding or something else, you can bowl just as effective. You're bowling the ball on a good length and the ball seaming and doing a few things. So it's just making sure you get the understanding of knowing what the conditions are, what your role is, and then adapting according to those things. But that will come with time you play. Not everybody has the luxury of having that understanding. Then you have to know what your teammates want from you, what your role in your team. If your team wants to be the enforcer, then unfortunately you have to bowl quick. And if your teammates want you to, let's say today you want you to be adaptable and be more effective and ask more questions instead of being a enforcer, you need to then be able to adapt. So you have to get the role and understanding of what you be able to do for your team initially, but also what you best are good at, and then play around in those roles. But that's what you get with playing more and you get the understanding of what cricket is about, I think.
So what I was going to say was, well, Dan, I think there's your answer. You play in Pontcanna Field all the time. It's slow, damp Welsh wickets. Conserve the energy. I think that's the answer. I think almost.
Yeah, but you can be effective. You can still be just as effective bowling good length on a damp wicket. And the days will be there where you can bowl quick and you can bowl one or two balls really quick just to show the batter that you've got that in. And that's the variation you can show them, that you can bowl quick. That creates doubt. And then you go back to being more effective, being maybe slightly slower on a good length, and you'll be just as effective as bowling quick. But you have to occasionally, and that's just being cricket smart, is showing the bowler or the batter what you can do, and then going back and this year, I don't need to bowl quick, but he knows I can bowl quick, and then be effective on bowling top of off stump and maybe slightly slower. So it's just making cricket nice and using cricket nice, being more effective.
And then, so one last question on the mental side of things, and this is from a question from Gary Holly, who's involved with the Wales over 40 setup. When things weren't going your way on the field, what was your process or routine to reset and regain your rhythm? What did you do when things weren't going well?
I think the big thing is sometimes for me it was more of a mental thing. I got carried away with my aggression, and I lost control of my emotions, and that sort of influenced in my way of bowling. And that's where me and Polly became quite good, because Polly he understood me, and he sort of came to me and said, listen, Adi, just come back to present, because I would get carried away with my emotions. But I think the key thing is, if things are not going well for you technically wise, make sure that you have those checkpoints as a bowler and a batter or anybody in what you have to do to make yourself effective. So for me as a bowler, I can use myself as an example. I knew with my technique, my back foot couldn't get too close to the stumps. If that happens, I would spread open too wide. I'll have no power to go forward. So that had to be almost just outside the wide line, next to the stumps. My front foot had to be mid-crease. My follow-through had to be almost on the roll part of the pitch. And then I have to make sure I finish with mate to batch. So those are my 4 checkpoints. And if I didn't feel, or something didn't feel right and I wasn't bowling well, that's the 4 things I'll revert back to and focus on the most. Because if I do that, I knew I was effective and it worked, I bowled quicker. So that's why I went back to focus on those 4 things when I was not fully happy with what's going on. And that almost took me away from what's happened around me, the emotions. But also, if I'm bowling badly and I focus on what I'm doing wrong, that's a negative mindset. If I focus on the 4 checkpoints that worked for me, that's a more of a positive mindset, and I know it makes me bowl well. So then that will proceed to be more positive and more confidence that lead to better outcome. So it's almost trying to spin a negative thought process into a positive mindset, but knowing what your checkpoints are in your action or as a batter or a bowler, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so for the listeners out there, let's just reiterate those 4 checkpoints you had. The first one was?
My back foot couldn't land too close to the stumps. So if you know the stumps is normally like a little white line next to the stumps. My back foot just had to be outside that white line. Then my front foot had to be mid-crease, not too wide, but almost mid-crease, because if my front foot went wider than mid-crease, I was unbalanced and my legs were too wide open, so I would not be able to transfer power forward. Then make sure my follow-through and head goes down the pitch towards bounce, that's mean my power and the force is going to where I want the ball to go. That brings more accuracy.
Brilliant. I'm going to start on there because it's interesting now, the head position. We're seeing that a lot. I can't remember, we obviously in batting, we all know the head's simple. You know, if your head is off canter, off the offside, you're always going to struggle. So the head is the most important thing. But I talked to a few people recently. I didn't realise how important the head was in terms of bowling. You got to watch some of the greatest spin bowlers, for example. Their heads don't move. It's like a train track here; it doesn't move. So for fast bowlers, and you coaching fast bowlers, we get into the technique. Let's talk about the head position. How important is that head position then for you, and when you're coaching other fast bowlers?
I think the head's the heaviest body part on your body. So wherever the head goes, the body goes. So if your head is falling away, your power is going to where the body is going to go. And where do you want to bowl? You want to bowl to the stumps. So it's important to make sure your head goes forward. And where do you get your pace from? This hips and shoulder separation. But not everybody be able to do hip and shoulder separation properly. But how can you then compensate if you can't do it properly? If you use your head pushing forward, you get the same hip shoulder separation if you just push your head forward. That means there's more power going to where the target is. It makes it a lot easier for you to be consistent because you're working in a straight line. And that's all about this understanding. Wherever the head goes, the body will go. As a batter, you know, if your head's going over and falling over, your power will go over. So it'll be difficult for you to play straight. So you're going to be always asked LBW. So you always try and push your head forwards to the umpire. So the head now plays a massive part because two things. It balances you. And what's the most important thing as a bowler and a batter? That's where your vision is. So if you can't see where you're bowling, you're going to be in trouble. If you can't see where the ball's coming from, it's going to be difficult. So this helps you also to make sure that you'll be able to see what you're doing.
So these four things that you found that was your checkpoints here, how long did it take you to find it? What was the lightning, that lightning strike bolt that came, oh my God, it's these four things? Was it time? Was it a conversation with a coach? Did you figure out yourself? Talk to me about that.
I think that's where I think it helped me quite a lot. Ray Jennings, my mentor, that I worked with, he's my coach from 2002 to like 2006. He was actually a keeper initially, and he sort of got a good understanding of my action. And I just sat down with him. He said to me, so this is your action. What do you think works for you? I said, Coach, I'm not 100% sure. And he sort of started breaking my action down in little pieces. And he said to me, there's four things you need to consider. And we spoke about it. And I'm like, geez, so this makes a lot of sense. And then I started doing that, and I bowled well. And then he came with this nice little theory of when you're bowling well, make sure you take those little notes. And I'll never forget, I played my first game probably when he was a month after he was coach. And I took a 7 for in the game. And I went off the field and I wrote my little notes down on my checklist. He said to me, please make a checklist on what you did well today. And that's when the penny dropped. It was like, wow. Because now that I've made those little checklists when I bowled well, I've got, like I said before, now I've got answers to fix it with when it's wrong. I don't have to depend on anybody else. I don't have to depend on the coach. I don't have to depend on anybody else. I can only depend on myself. And at the end of the day, who's the person who's bowling the ball? You. And if you can fix yourself and you know what you're doing wrong and you can fix it, you're winning. You're going to be pretty successful. And you be, like I said, then you're consistent. You know your outcomes will be consistent and be more consistently in form than out of form. And that's when the penny, I think about 23, 24, the penny dropped. And that's when like everything that's went from, I was playing normal franchise cricket. In a space of 2 years, I went from playing franchise cricket to playing international cricket. But this, having that understanding. And so I'm truly thankful to him for getting me that process, understanding that process for me that worked. So yeah, I think that's just the key thing that I spoke to him and he sort of showed me the light, I think, to be honest.
That's brilliant. Like I said, there's so many things you can pick apart in this here now, but what you did was you talked about taking responsibility for your bowling in the middle of the part, but you got the help of a coach to help you work out what that process was. But I think you've said this before earlier on in the interview, was that the fact that when you're bowling well, you've written down what went well. And so many people forget about it. I think sometimes you learn more from failure than you do success. but success leaves clues. So by writing down the ideas and stuff here now, and I think what separates the great players from what I've spoken to and seen, whether it's club cricket, I'm not experienced at test level. I've never played that game, but that level here. But when you speak to them, it's the ones that can pull themselves quickly into the zone, into that flow-like mindset to get back into shape quickly and know what those checkpoints are. That's the one that separates you. And you've kind of like just reaffirmed that. And that was your checkpoint from going from franchise, state level cricket to test arena, which is a big step up, right?
It is a massive step up, but the thing is, that will never change, because if you find a process that works and you're consistent, you get to the international cricket, that's been that's the easiest part, because when you play international cricket, you do a limited amount of work. You just reconfirm what your process and what your checkpoints is. The coaches are not coaching you. They're there to guide you and give you some tips and advice on maybe betting those things. But those things will never change. But you have to find those things first before you ever be successful. And if you never find them, then unfortunately you'll struggle to be consistently a top performer.
Love it. So in that, let's do a segue now from your playing career into coaching. So when you're working with a fast bowler now, a young up-and-coming fast bowler, what are the checkpoints? What are the things you're looking for? And do you have a process of helping them establish their best performance going through that? Talk us through your process.
I think these days I'll have a look what makes them unique first, because these days there's no more like by the book bowlers and cricketers anymore. I think as a coach, you need to be really adaptable. So I want to see what makes him successful. Then speak to him and see if he's got understanding of what he's doing first. And then I'll try and see what his fundamentals are. So I work on 4 simple little things as a fast bowler: your back foot landing, your front foot landing, hip shoulder separation, and then your follow through. So those are all a few things. So if you have understanding, if you side on, semi, or front on, then if your shoulder hip separation is where your pace comes from, if that makes sense. So I know, Josh, we're talking a lot of cricket talk here, but hopefully it does make a bit of sense for you. Sorry.
No, it's fascinating. I'm learning more and more about the game.
So I check where they fall on that little frame set. And sometimes they maybe not 100% there, but then also no one's perfect. So there's little shortcuts you can also do. Because I never was in those things, but I knew if I use my head, I'll get my hip shoulder separation. So my hips never turn as much, but my head will work as much. So I'll get the same principle. So I look where they're on those framework, and if it's possible to coach to make sure that you can coach them in close enough to those framework to limit injuries. And then the big thing for me is fast bowling for me is all about attitude and this thing. Because fast bowling is the hardest job in the game. And you have to make peace with pain, firstly, but then also you want to see the character behind that. The guy who wants to come back the next day to bowl the same and do the hard work again. That comes from training, possibly, yes, but that comes from pure this thing and the hunger to be successful. So those are things. And sometimes you might not see it the first session, but you can see the way the guy talks to you, the way he's excited when he talks about bowling. When you're asking a question, the way he answers, you can a lot of ways and things by speaking to someone, how they feel about their job. So those are sort of the tools I try to use now these days with fast bowlers. And maybe when I was a young coach, I probably didn't use those tools enough. I was just thinking, this is the way it's got to be done. I was quite an enforcer, but I think I've sort of softened and got a better understanding of what could work better these days. I think that is probably the way I go about it now.
It's interesting. There is nothing more exciting than the fast bowler bowling. Like I think, Josh, when I took you to Headingley to watch the Ashes last year, and Mark Wood bowled that first ball at 97 miles an hour with the crowd, like he got the crowd off the edge of their seats. It is true. It's like the hairs in the back of my neck.
I couldn't even see it. I don't know how do you even see that? I couldn't see where the ball went. It was ridiculous.
Neither did the Aussie batsman that time as well. But the point is, fast bowling is exciting. Okay, it's an absolutely, it's a pleasure to watch when it's done extremely well. I can't imagine what it's like to bowl it as well, like be able to come in ferociously and hit those sort of paces too. So it is an exciting part of the game, and long may it continue. It's a battle batsman versus bowler, and it's just, it's one of those things that puts bums on seats. People want to see it, and the question is how do you develop more fast bowlers here? And this is what we're trying to get at. Is I think there's a lot of secrets we can learn from Andre, from other fast bowlers out there too, of how they're able to get to that level and the things here. And so far, it's having it's mental prep, the mental prep and process we're learning so far. We're learning what are his checkpoints to get to here now. Those are the key things here now.
So I think just before you go on, James, I think the big thing is fast bowlers are sometimes as unassuming guys that you don't expect. Their skill level might not be as good, but they've got the biggest heart, because skill levels you can improve and technique you can improve, but no one can improve heart and passion. And they're hard to find. And it's like Mark Wood, you can see he's passionate about bowling fast. He just wants to bowl fast. That comes from, yes, he does a lot of hard work. He's a small guy. But to bowl that quick and put your body through that the whole time is not from just technique. That comes from within, and it's sometimes hard to find. So you can't teach that to someone. So sometimes it takes time for bowlers to develop that. But I think when they get the technique right, and they might not have the heart at that stage, and they get the technique right, and they start building consistency and performances, that heart will grow to love fast bowling, if that makes sense.
Absolutely love it. Yeah, absolutely makes perfect sense. So to segue off towards like closing, because we're obviously taking enough of your time now today. It's been fascinating insight into the world, your mindset of bowling at that level. So looking back at your career, is there anything you'd have done differently in terms of prep, in terms of technique, or anything on strategy even? What sort of things would you have done differently now, knowing what you know now and using Captain Hindsight as your guide?
I think spend more time on my batting. I only realized that I wanted to be an all-rounder at about 2005-06, and that's when Polly started working with me, and I improved my batting quite a lot. And I see myself as a bowling all-rounder because I average double figures in all formats of the game. So I see myself as, but as a bowler, maybe more calmness sometimes. I got carried away with the passion and hunger to be to enforce, instead of yes, enforce, but maybe smarter in that sense. And then maybe hitting top of off some slightly more, because yes, I always had good bounce and carry, but I sometimes were inefficient because I didn't take the stumps enough. Yes, I was okay, but not enough. And I think I could have done that slightly better on even wickets that suit fast bowlers, where the wonders I tended to bowl back of a length, where you should bowl fuller and asked to attack the stump side, you've been more effective. And yes, you got right, but I didn't get right enough. And then I think maybe taking my fitness a bit more seriously. I was fit enough, and I trained, and I did bowl, and I loved bowling my overs. I would bowl a lot of overs, and then I would always say, if I could bowl my overs, why do I have to do so much work off the field? What do you want me to do? You want me to bowl my overs? And I never let the team down with bowling my overs. And I'm proud of that, but I think I could have been more specific to training slightly harder off the field, and my nutrition could have been better. I think that's in general, nutrition played a big part, and I only realized how big a part nutrition played when I started doing Ironman again. Eating at the right times, eating the right things at the right time, drinking the right things at the right time, the amount of energy you can gain, and using the right energy at the right times with the amount of food you eat. You could see the resemblance to what that could have helped me with cricket. So probably those few things. A lot of things, it sounds like, but there's not that much. There's probably 3 or 4 things I could have used better, but I don't know, to make myself more effective.
I think it's great advice of picking up people up and coming back, and that's what we're trying to coach in terms of nutrition and the fitness side of things. That's why we come in, and if we can give our unique spin on stuff, is how we look at how you move, your physical conditioning, and the nutrition to compare. Because the more you nourish your body and hydrate, the clearer you can think to make better decisions on the field. That's our take all the time. And I wish there's more information out there, because cricket is technically still quite young in professionalism, I think, compared to baseball and other things. So, the stuff you're sharing now is using your hindsight and knowledge to impact, thousands of other cricketers out there who can maybe perform. So on that note, one last question for you is what do you think young bowlers or bowlers in general can learn from the way you played the game to make them the best version of themselves today?
Never take a back step and take a challenge to the batter.
Nice.
Love it.
Simple.
More Gunther.
A lot of times these days, a lot of times these days go, no, bowling nice, ball looks pretty, I'll swing the ball out. But they just I don't know, the rules have changed. They bowl robots. I want characters as bowlers. Bowlers should be characters, not robots, and the rules have changed. limit characters. But characters make the game exciting, make people come and watch. I just want more guys, more characters to take a chance to batters, and the batters dominate so much with how the games change and suit them. Bowlers step up, improve their skill, and then take the chance to the batters. Bugger the batters.
But one last question from me, actually, before we wrap up. Who were your toughest opponents? Who are the toughest batsmen that you faced? Anyone that sticks out?
It's hard to separate. It's difficult to separate. I was fortunate enough to play against some really good cricketers. But it all depends on the situation, the game, and the importance of the wickets. But probably Sehwag was pretty difficult to play against. Tenduka, Lara. So it's really difficult to a few names, but it's difficult to single one person out because it depends on the situation, the game, and the importance of the wicket for my team. My biggest thing is if I can get the best player out and my team wins, that was my role. And I love the chance to play against the best batters and players. So yes, I might have always been successful, but that was my challenge, and I saw it as a challenge for my team to Celestia. Now they will always take a challenge to any batter. So it's difficult to single anybody out because I was fortunate to play some great cricketers against some great cricketers. So it's difficult to single anybody out, really.
Cool. If people want to find out more about yourself and your coaching services, do you have any social media channels or a website, anything they can find out about you, Andre?
No, I coach at National Fast Bowling Academy. That's in Bishop Stortford, so that you'll find that on Instagram. Then I would love to coach professionally the full time. So hopefully, if anybody can offer me a job while listening to this, I'll be truly grateful. I love cricket.
Yep.
I would love to coach professionally or at a school, wherever. I think I can offer so much to people. I think it's just a way sitting in the office at the moment doing bookkeeping. But yeah, not at the moment. So yeah, that's where they can probably find me.
It's true. I think, obviously, from just the insights we've learned from him today, like, hopefully people out there will listen to this and take a lot from it. And I hope the opportunities do come your way, because I think it's been a fantastic insight. I've learned a lot about not just your approach, but just the approach to help other fast bowlers as well who come into our walks of life. So, Andre, from us, thank you very much.
Thanks for having me, James and Josh, and hopefully we'll catch up soon for a beer, James.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys. Thank you for listening. Until next time.